I had just gotten home from a tough day at work, expecting to find my wife Nancy in the kitchen preparing dinner. Nancy worked too, but she usually got home by 5, while I didn't arrive until around 6. She would have dinner ready, and we would eat, talk about our day, watch some TV, and then head to bed where, most nights, we would make love. As I walked into the apartment, I found Nancy sitting on the couch with John Marcus. John was an attorney at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, the same firm where Nancy worked as a secretary. They were holding hands. Before I could ask what was going on, Nancy spoke up. "Sit down, Roy, we need to talk." "About what, Nancy? And why are you holding hands with your boss?" "That's what we need to talk about, Roy. Please, sit down." "I think I'd rather stand." Nancy looked at John, who nodded, and then she said, "There's no easy way to say this, but John and I have fallen in love. I'm going to divorce you and marry him. John has taken care of all the paperwork. All you need to do is sign it. I'm not asking for anything, just my clothes, jewelry, and personal items. Just sign, and it will all be over in 90 days. John picked up some papers next to him on the couch, stood up, and started walking toward me, saying, "Roy Martin, you have," but that was as far as he got before my right foot hit him squarely in the crotch. He dropped the papers and doubled over in pain, and as he bent, I hit him as hard as I could on the jaw with my fist, knocking him to the floor. "You miserable piece of shit!" I shouted, kicking him again in the crotch. "It doesn't matter if she came after you or you went after her, you knew she was married." While this was happening, Nancy sat in shock, too stunned to react. I left John writhing on the floor, grabbed Nancy off the couch, and dragged her into the bedroom. By the time I got her there, she had recovered enough to struggle and cry out, "Let go of me! Let go of me, damn you!" I pushed her face first onto the bed, stuffed her face into a pillow, and sat on her back while I ripped the sheet apart. Using the torn sheet, I tied her up and gagged her. Then I went back to the living room, grabbed John by the collar, dragged him into the bedroom, tossed him onto the bed, and tied and gagged him as well. I stood there looking at them, then started laughing. How about this? The lovers in bed together, and the husband standing here watching. Is that kinky or what? While they lay there helpless, I cleaned out my dresser and closet, packing my things. I took a picture of the two of them with my cell phone and said, "Y'all don't go anywhere now, here." I left them tied up and quickly gathered everything I wanted from the apartment, loading it all into my truck. I planned to come back later for the larger items. After loading the truck with my packed belongings, I returned to the apartment. In the apartment, I emptied Nancy's purse, taking all the money and credit cards, and then paid one last visit to the bedroom. I watched them struggle to free themselves. After a minute, I said, "When I reach the city limits, I'll call someone to come rescue you. If I'm lucky, I'll never see either of you again. Then again, maybe I'll wait until I'm 1,000 miles away to make the call. Once you're free, you'll only have to wait a year to divorce me for abandonment. Take care now, here? Snuggle up and enjoy some cuddle time." Then I left. As I drove away, I wondered why I was being such an asshole about what had happened. But deep down, I knew why. It was the way it was done. If Nancy had come to me and said she wanted a divorce because she'd fallen in love with another man, I wouldn't have liked it, but I would have accepted that she didn't want to be with me. I might have asked what I'd done wrong or what I was lacking, but I would have let her go. But to confront me in my own home with her lover holding her hand and saying, "Here's the paperwork, sign it," was too cold and disrespectful for me to let go. And I wasn't done messing with them yet. I had expected dinner to be ready when I got home, and since it wasn't, I decided to head to the village inn for a meal. After dessert, I would call Nancy's sister and tell her to go help Nancy. Let her find her sister and her sister's lover and be the one to spread the story. As I ate dinner, I wondered why, if Nancy was in love with her boss, she had been sleeping with me right up until the confrontation in our living room. I'd probably never know the answer to that. After finishing my apple pie a la mode, I called Nancy's sister, Julie. I told her I'd left Nancy and her lover tied up in our apartment's bedroom, then hung up before she could ask any questions. Hopefully, my 1,000 miles away remark would make them think I was leaving town, and they wouldn't bother looking for me. In reality, I was just moving to the other side of town. I left the restaurant, checked into the Quality Inn, and called my boss at home. When he answered, I explained the situation, arranged to take the next 2 days off, and asked him to tell Nancy, if she called, that I had come into work, quit without notice, mumbled something about Florida, and left. He agreed and then said, "You realize if you stay here, she will eventually see you or someone who knows both of you might mention seeing you, right?" "Yeah, but this is all about messing with her as much as I can. It might only be for a day or two, but I'll take what I can get." The first thing I did in the morning was hit the bank, only to find out Nancy had lied. She claimed she only wanted her clothing, personal items, and such, but she had actually taken half of the checking and savings accounts the day before. I checked the safe deposit box and found she had apparently forgotten about it. Inside were the 6 certificates of deposit and another way to get back at her. The CDs totaled $12,000, meant to be the down payment on a house. We each contributed 10% of our net pay into savings, and when savings hit $2,000, we bought a CD. Our goal was $20,000. But that wasn't what would really upset her. The box also contained jewelry from her great-great-grandmother, passed down through the family, which Nancy received when her mother died from cancer. It had been appraised at $82,000. The jewelry had been a bone of contention between Nancy and her sister, Julie. Julie always argued she deserved half, while Nancy insisted it was hers as the firstborn and would be passed down to her daughter. Nancy would be furious when she remembered the box, opened it, and found it empty. I cleaned out the box, intending to hold onto the jewelry until Nancy realized it was gone. After letting her rant for a bit, I planned to give the jewelry to Julie. In the morning, I rented a U-Haul and waited until I knew Nancy had gone to work. Then I swung by the apartment to get the heavy stuff I wanted. My key didn't work, and I cursed myself for not waiting until all the hardware stores were closed before calling Julie. But my name was on the lease, and I hadn't been served with a restraining order, at least not yet, so I had a right to be there. It wasn't hard to break in. I'd have to pay the property management company to fix or replace the door, but that was the least of my concerns at the time. I had everything I wanted out of the apartment in 45 minutes and stashed it in a storage unit an hour later. While in the apartment, I used the phone to cancel our joint credit cards and called Megan at the management company about the door, telling her I'd call back in a couple of days to arrange payment. I'd known Megan for years, so when she asked what happened, I told her the whole story. She laughed and said, "Really? You left them in bed together? Wait until I spread the word on that. This frees you up for me." "What about Mike?" I asked. "He pulled the same stunt as Nancy. Hooked up with some woman he worked with and told me he loved her more than he did me. Do you have my home number?" "I've got it. When you feel ready, don't be afraid to use it." "Thanks, Meg. Talk to you later." I stopped at the library and checked out a half-dozen books. My plan was to hole up and do nothing but work during the day and read in the evenings. If I wasn't out and about, there was little chance I'd be spotted by Nancy or anyone she might have looking for me. I couldn't afford to stay in the motel for too long, so I called Megan, and she pointed me to an apartment complex on the other side of town from my old one. She called the apartment manager and smoothed the way for me. I knew I was taking a risk staying in town. In some of my conversations with Nancy, she had mentioned that Marcus was close to becoming a partner at his firm. I was gambling that Marcus would want to avoid the scandal that could arise if he pressed charges against me for assault. For one thing, it could cost him the partnership he was hoping for, as it would reveal he was involved with a married employee. I was betting he wouldn't want the partners in his law firm coming down on him for the negative publicity. I was also betting he would talk Nancy out of filing spousal abuse charges for the same reason. By the end of 3 days, I was moved into my new apartment. When I went to work, my boss told me Nancy had called, and he had told her about my supposed move to Florida. He said she exclaimed, "Shit," and hung up on him. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard that. Around 11, I called Megan and asked what I owed for the door. She told me nothing, Nancy had taken care of it. Then Megan asked where we were going on our first date. I explained my plan concerning Nancy, and she laughed, saying I was evil. Then she said, "You can come over to my place for dinner and we can talk about old times. That way, you won't be out and about, and there's no chance she will see you." "What time?" I asked. "Say 6. She gave me directions, and I told her I'd see her at 6. As I drove to Megan's, memories of our long history together flooded my mind. We had dated on and off throughout high school and were almost at the point of becoming steady. However, her father received a promotion, and their family had to move away before we could take things further. I hadn't realized Megan was back in town until the day I visited the manager's office to sign my apartment lease papers. By then, I was already married to Nancy. Arriving promptly at Megan's apartment, I sat down at her kitchen table while she finished preparing dinner. We caught up, and Megan shared her experiences about moving to Colorado when her father was promoted, expressing her longing to return there someday. Curious, I asked why she hadn't stayed in Colorado if she felt so strongly about it. That's when Megan revealed the tragic news: her father had passed away in an industrial accident, prompting her mother to move them back. She was a wreck, and I came back with her because she needed me. She's doing better now, but I'm still saving up to eventually move back, Megan explained, detailing her situation. Curious about my life with Nancy, Megan prompted me for details. I shared the story, and she teased me, suggesting I should have taken a picture of our relaxed moments together to frame and hang on my wall, captioned "The Lovebirds relaxing after a hard day." Amused by her suggestion, I revealed that I had indeed snapped a picture with my cell phone before leaving. Megan wanted to see it, so I showed her, and we both laughed heartily. We enjoyed each other's company, and I invited her over for dinner at my place the following night, an offer she gladly accepted. The next evening, Megan joined me for dinner, and after we ate, we settled on the couch to watch a movie. At some point during the film, I noticed we were holding hands, a gesture that had seemingly happened naturally. When I glanced at her, she was already looking at me, prompting me with a question. "Have you ever wondered how things would have turned out between us if my dad hadn't moved us to Colorado?" Megan asked. "I've thought about it often, especially since seeing you when I signed the apartment lease," I confessed. "Would you want to see if there's still something between us?" she asked further. "I would, but only after I've sorted things out with Nancy," I replied honestly. "Why wait?" "If you're done with her, you're done," Megan suggested, her eyes searching mine. "Maybe, but I'm still married." "There are vows and all that," I countered, hesitant. "But she broke hers and set you free," Megan reasoned, her voice gentle yet persuasive. "True enough, but I'm not built that way. I messed up by not letting them go through the proper process of serving me. Once I'm officially served, sign the papers, and send them back, then I'll consider myself free of my vows. But it won't be easy. I loved that foolish woman, and I believed she loved me too. Some people can switch off love like flipping a switch, but I'm not one of them. It's going to take me some time to get over Nancy. I have 8 years of what I thought were pretty good memories to bury. It won't be simple for me. I suppose the first step is to sort out all the legal stuff. How long will that take?" "The papers are already drawn up, so I guess all I have to do is make myself available to be served. Maybe the simplest way would be to walk into her office and ask for them, but I don't really want to do that. It would put an end to my games with her, and I'm really looking forward to that. And when it comes down to it, there's no rush. We need to reconnect and get to know each other again. It's been 12 years since we split, and we're different people now. There's also a big issue we have to face head on. I was deeply in love with Nancy and thought we had a great marriage until she blindsided me with her boss that night. You want to know the kicker? The night before she blindsided me, we made love 3 times. 3 times, knowing what she was going to do the next day. She even kissed me goodbye and told me to have a great day when I left for work that morning. But enough of that. I've decided I'm not going to hide from Nancy. If she finds me, she finds me. So, what would you like to do on our first date? That depends on when it is. Dinner and dancing if it's the weekend. Dinner and a movie if it's during the week. All right, how about this? My Thursdays are already booked until September, so how about dinner and a movie on Wednesday and dinner and dancing on Saturday? Sounds good to me. But what about Friday? We can figure that out on Wednesday. No, let's decide now. How about dinner at my place on Friday? Isn't that too much of me to handle in such a short time? If I have my way, I'm going to end up taking all of your time anyway. Then Friday it is. Wednesday's date went smoothly, and Megan gave me a sweet kiss when I dropped her off. Since I had decided not to hide from Nancy, I showed up at the bowling alley on Thursday. Initially, I had planned to quit my team because several of Nancy's friends also bowled in our league, and they could have informed her that I was still in town instead of moving far away. It was a mixed league, and one of the girls worked with Nancy, while the other two, a girl and a guy, were her schoolmates with whom she still socialized. On that Thursday night, luck had it that my team was matched against the team where Nancy's coworker, Melissa, bowled. Aware that my name might come up at Nancy's workplace the next day, I decided to take the opportunity to gather some information. I casually asked Melissa if she knew how long Nancy had been having an affair with her boss. I could see from her expression that she was aware, but she replied, "I have no idea what you're talking about." "You don't need to cover for her, Melissa," I said calmly. "Nancy and Marcus already dropped the bomb on me. She wants a divorce so she can marry him. I'm just curious how long she's been deceiving me. I never suspected a thing until it hit me." "Maybe about 8 months," Melissa admitted reluctantly. "We all think she's lost her mind giving you up for that dirtbag. Is it true you kicked him in the crotch?" I just smiled in response, declining to confirm. Melissa then asked if I planned to contest the divorce. "Why would I fight to keep someone who doesn't want me?" I replied honestly. "Once it's over, any chance I could be on your radar when you're back on the market?" Melissa asked with a hint of flirtation. "I'll keep you in mind, but these things take time. I doubt someone as attractive as you will still be available when everything settles," I remarked. "They say good things are worth the wait," she replied with a grin. "Do you think you could handle working with Nancy if we did get together?" I asked curiously. "It would be amusing to watch her regret her choices. She'll soon realize what a mistake it was to leave you for Marcus," Melissa said confidently. "I hope so. I'd enjoy seeing that," I admitted. It was a satisfying evening for me. My team won 2 out of 3 games, and I scored a personal victory with a jackpot of 217 in the second game. Plus, it was flattering to have a beautiful woman express interest in me. My date with Megan on Friday went smoothly. However, Saturday didn't go as planned. After a pleasant dinner at Duke's Steakhouse, we headed to Buckskins for some dancing. Buckskins was a country western venue with live bands on weekends. While dancing the cowboy cha-cha with Megan to the tunes of Carlos Washington, my evening took an unexpected turn when Julie Myers, Nancy's sister, walked in with her current boyfriend and another unfamiliar guy. They chose the table right next to ours. That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was when Nancy joined Julie and the others at the table next to ours as soon as they were seated. I had already decided not to hide the fact that I was still in town, but having Nancy sitting so close, and with an unknown guy with them, raised questions. Was Nancy already stepping out on John? I gave Megan a heads up about what we were about to face, and she laughed and said, "Oh, goody, a night to remember." When the music ended, we made our way back to our table. Nancy was sitting with her back to us, but Julie was facing our direction. I saw surprise register on Julie's face as we approached and sat down. Apparently, she chose not to inform Nancy, as Nancy never turned around. I had already decided we wouldn't pay our tab and leave. The next song was a waltz, and Julie and the others got up to move onto the dance floor. That's when Nancy finally saw me. I could see shock and disbelief on her face, but her dance partner led her out onto the floor, and she never took her eyes off me as they danced. When the song ended and the band announced a break, Nancy and the others returned to their table, and then Nancy decided to confront me. "Who's your friend, Roy?" she said with heavy sarcasm on friend. "Surely you remember Megan from the leasing office," I replied calmly. Nancy looked at Megan and sneered, "You date married men often?" Megan laughed and shot back, "Only the ones that stupid wives throw away." Nancy's face darkened with anger at Megan's response. Then she turned to me and demanded, "Why are you here, Roy? I thought you left town." "I'm here to drink and dance." "Isn't that why people come here?" "And obviously, I'm here, or you wouldn't be able to talk to me," I retorted. "Where are you living?" she pressed on. "None of your business," I replied firmly. "Still working for Stan," she continued, ignoring my response. "Why don't you get back to your group, Nan?" "I'd like to spend some time with my date," I said dismissively. "Damn it, Roy, you know I don't like being called Nan," Nancy snapped. "Tough shit, Nan. After what you and your sleazy boss pulled on me, I don't care what you like or don't like. Does John know you're out with another man tonight? Maybe I should drop him a line," I threatened. "I don't have a date. I came here to have a drink with Julie and Randy." "I didn't know Art would be with them," Nancy retorted defensively. I called out to Julie, "Hey Jules, is Art Julie's date?" "I'm not getting involved in this, Roy," Julie replied cautiously. "The fact that Julie won't confirm your story tells me everything," I said knowingly. "Damn it, Roy, I'm not." At that point, Megan intervened firmly. "If you don't want to start something with me, you better get away from my date right now." Nancy shot us a nasty look and returned to her seat. Megan smiled at me and said, "I haven't had this much fun in a long time." The band returned and we danced for 2 more songs. When we returned to our table, Julie and her group had vanished. As we sat down, Megan asked, "Are you seriously considering telling her lawyer boyfriend about your wife and this Art guy?" "No. If she's cheating on him, he deserves it, since he's a cheat himself. I mean, he did cheat with a married woman, right? If, as she said, they just happen to be here, I'll let her sweat and think that maybe someday I might spill the beans just to stir things up between them. Make him wonder about that old once a cheat, always a cheat saying." "You do have a deviously clever mind, don't you?" Megan grinned. I just smiled back. Later, when I dropped Megan off, she gave me a passionate kiss. Driving home, I pondered whether something lasting could develop with Megan. We had a history from high school, but was it more than just youthful infatuation? The next day, I called Julie and arranged to meet her at Bud's bar after work. "I told you I didn't want to get involved, Roy," Julie said firmly. "I don't want you to get involved, Jules. I have something to discuss with you that doesn't involve Nancy or your current situation," I assured her. "Okay, but if you bring up Nancy or anything about what's going on between you two, I'm out," Julie insisted. "Fair enough," I agreed. I arrived at Bud's before Julie, deciding the best approach was to hand her the box of jewelry right away. That way, I wouldn't need to mention Nancy first and risk Julie walking out. Julie entered, scanned the room, spotted me, and approached. I had her usual drink ready on the table. She sat down, took a sip, and then asked, "Okay, Roy, what's this about?" I picked up the box from beside me and placed it on the table in front of her. "What's in the box?" Julie inquired. "Open it and see," I replied. Julie took another sip of her drink, set it down, and opened the box. I watched her expression change as she realized what was inside. She pulled out a diamond necklace and examined it closely. "Mom used to let me wear this when I played dress-up as a kid." "Where did you find it?" Julie asked, clearly moved. I explained how I came to possess it and said, "I know you always felt you should have inherited half of Mom's jewelry. Now you have it all. What you do with it is up to you. You can keep it all or share it with your sister. You can tell Nancy about it or not. When she eventually remembers the safe deposit box and finds it empty, she'll come to me, and I'll tell her I pawned it." "Why didn't you pawn it?" "That would have really gotten back at her," Julie suggested. "I couldn't do that, Jules. These are family heirlooms, and as much as pawning them might have hurt Nancy, it would have been like stealing from you. You've always been kind to me, so I couldn't bring myself to do it," I explained sincerely. "Truth be told, Roy, I've always wished I'd gotten to you before Nancy," Julie confessed as she placed the necklace back in the box. "You will never know how much I appreciate this, Roy." Standing up, she picked up the box and said, "Stay in touch, Roy," before leaving. It couldn't have gone better if I had planned it. The very next day, Nancy showed up at my workplace. She approached me directly and demanded, "Where is my jewelry?" "How did you know I was here?" I asked, surprised. "When I found out you hadn't left town, I figured you'd be here." "Now, where's my jewelry?" she insisted. "I got rid of it," I calmly replied. "You got rid of it?" "That jewelry was mine, Roy. You had no right to take it." Nancy protested. "Of course I did. The money I got when I pawned it covered what you took out of our accounts," I explained. "The money from our ACO." "Wait. You pawned it?" Nancy seemed shocked. "Yep." "Damn you, Roy. You had no right," Nancy exclaimed. "Not the way I saw it. You lied to me. You said all you wanted out of our marriage was your personal belongings like clothing, jewelry, and such. You never mentioned money," I countered. "Horse shit, Roy. You should have known without me saying it that I would want my share of the money," Nancy retorted. "Many things I should have known, Nancy. Like the fact that my wife was a cheating, backstabbing person, but I didn't. And you didn't just take your share. You took more than half," I pointed out. "I did not," Nancy protested. "There was $15,600.12, and you took $7,850. That's $49.94 more than half. I pawned your jewelry for that $49.94, so that makes us even," I stated firmly. $49.94? My God, Roy, that jewelry was worth over $60,000, Nancy exclaimed. "It was? Oh well, my loss. Tell you what, the sign on the building said you had 60 days to redeem the property. Actually, it's only 51 now, but I'll make you a deal. I'll sell you the pawn ticket for $10,000, I offered." "How am I supposed to come up with that much money?" Nancy asked. "Ask your new man. Maybe he'll give it to you," I suggested. "How about I just call the police and tell them you stole my jewelry?" Nancy threatened. "Go ahead. Do you have anything showing there was any jewelry in the safe deposit box? Do you have any proof you even had jewelry to put in the box? Just get the hell out of here, Nancy. This is a place of business, and you're disrupting it," I asserted. "This isn't over, Roy," Nancy warned. "Get out of here, or I'll be the one calling the police," I warned back. "Go ahead. I'll turn you in for assaulting me and John," Nancy threatened as she left. "If you do that, my response will be to pursue legal action against John for alienation of affections and to file a complaint against the law firm for not enforcing their employment policies, especially regarding relationships between supervisors, like John, and their subordinates, like yourself. Do you think John would still have a shot at making partner if that were to come out? It's best if you just leave now, Nancy, and not aggravate me any further. Take this with you. If you had been honest with me up front about not loving me anymore, I would have been hurt but would have let you go without all this drama. Now, please go." Nancy gave me a long stare and then left. Did I think she wouldn't cause more trouble? Of course not. I knew Nancy better than she thought I did, and she wouldn't let this go easily. She'd try to find a way to get back at me where I couldn't retaliate. But I didn't think she'd succeed. In fact, I was betting on it. I just hoped I wasn't wrong. The next day, a man came to my workplace asking for me, and the receptionist paged me. I went to the front and found him reading one of the many award plaques on the wall. I approached him and asked how I could help. "Roy Dalton?" "That's me." He handed me an envelope, said, "You have been served. Good luck," and walked out of the office. I opened the envelope and read the papers inside. They were straightforward, pretty much what Nancy had said they would be on the night she confronted me. Surprisingly, she didn't even ask for alimony. I signed the papers, put them in the stamped envelope provided, and dropped them in the outgoing mail tray on Sally's desk. "Are you getting a divorce?" Sally asked. "Looks like it," I replied. Put my name on the list when you start looking again, she said. Are you serious? You bet I am. As I walked back to the shop, I wondered what other women saw in me that Nancy hadn't. First Megan, then Melissa, and now Sally showing interest in me. It was a balm for my bruised ego. Later, I called Megan and told her about being served. As far as I was concerned, I was now released from my vows. She said she had a commitment to a bridal shower that evening but invited me over to her place the next night for a celebratory dinner, and I agreed. I was having a TV dinner at home when Julie called. You're an evil man, Roy Dalton, she said. Me? What did I do now? I've spent the last half hour consoling my sister over what you did with her jewelry. She asked John for the $10,000 she needed to buy back the pawned items, but he told her he didn't have it and wouldn't until the next quarterly bonuses, which are over 2 months away. She's in tears. She only has 50 days to redeem them, and she doesn't know what to do. I felt sorry for her, so I offered to return the jewelry on the condition that I could keep the necklace. She agreed eagerly. Thanks to you, I have my necklace back and my sister's eternal gratitude. Remember what I said, Roy. Keep in touch, okay? Will do, sweetie, will do. Whether I actually would keep in touch largely depended on Megan. Yes, we had a connection back in high school, but was it just youthful experimentation? When I arrived at Megan's place, it was clear she had gone all out for the evening. She wore a revealing dress and sexy high heels. The table was set with lit candles, a bottle of wine, and 2 glasses. Your timing is perfect, she said. Dinner is ready. If you pour the wine, I'll bring it to the table. After setting dinner down and sitting, she picked up her wine glass and proposed a toast. To new beginnings, she said. Here, I replied, raising my glass. Dinner was delicious, though lacking only romantic background music. Megan wasn't subtle about her expectations for the evening. Dessert will be served in the bedroom, she announced after dinner. As we undressed, she murmured, this is where I wanted us to be all those years ago before Dad got promoted. It was my first time seeing her completely naked. She was incredibly sexy. Did you miss me? I teased, kissing her breast, and the evening unfolded from there, 2 missionary positions, 1 cowgirl, and doggy style. She wanted one more round, but I was spent. We fell asleep together, and from that night on, we were essentially a couple. I say essentially because there were boundaries we couldn't cross. Despite being served divorce papers, I was still legally married until the divorce was finalized. A few times, Megan and I ran into Nancy while out drinking, dancing, or dining. Nancy kept her distance, though her expressions were tinged with hostility. A week after my divorce was finalized, I knelt before Megan and proposed. I was in the basement working on a cradle for the twins due in 3 months when I heard Megan call out, "He's here, sweetie." I tidied up, cleaned myself off, and headed upstairs to join my father-in-law for dinner. He was already seated on the couch, drink in hand, when I entered. Megan brought me a beer, settled onto my lap with her margarita, and we discussed the upcoming arrival of the twins, potential names, and our decision not to find out their sexes before birth. Then, inevitably, the elephant in the room came up, this time brought by my father-in-law. "Have you heard from your sister lately?" he asked. "Not since the last time I mentioned her." "Have you?" "No. I just wonder what's going on." "I'm not going to call her to find out. If she calls, I'll talk to her, but I won't initiate contact. All I know is what she told me last time. She's left him because of his constant cheating and plans to divorce him. Roy always said one of them would cheat within a year of getting married." My father-in-law looked at me, and I shrugged. I gently patted Megan's baby bump and said, "It doesn't matter to me because I'm the lucky one. I've got you." My father-in-law shook his head. "I get more beers bought for me at the Lodge Hall because of you too. I guess I'm the only father in the state who has a son-in-law who married both my daughters. I still don't understand, and maybe it's better that I don't, how you moved from Nancy to Julie." "Julie? Oh, right. I think I skipped over that part. When I proposed to Megan, she turned me down. It wasn't that direct, but it was still a rejection. She liked me and enjoyed what we had been doing, but she didn't love me. I was disappointed but not overly upset, which made me realize that maybe I had just been going through the motions with Megan. We had something in high school, so I thought it would naturally progress from there, right? Anyway, I got over it. Over the next couple of months, a few times a week, I'd visit bars like Buckskins where they played music for line dancing. One night at the Stagecoach Inn, the band was Jimmy Little and the Barnyard Players. I was on the dance floor doing a line dance when I noticed Julie Myers come in and sit at the bar. After the dance, I returned to my table and Julie came over and asked if she could join me. I told her to take a seat, and she did, asking me why I hadn't called. "Why would I have called you?" I asked. "I thought I made it clear that I wished I had gotten to you before Nancy," she replied. "I reinforced it when I asked you to keep in touch." "Yes, but if I had done that and we had connected, how would you manage to stay on good terms with your sister? And what about your dad? Can you see him welcoming me? I'm not living my life to please Nancy or my father. Nancy had her chance and blew it, so she doesn't get to dictate who I can or can't be with. As for Dad, he can either be happy for me or not. Now, to start your courtship, I think you should ask me to dance." Nancy wasn't pleased, and Julie told her to go away. Her dad's reaction was a surprise. "Glad we can keep you in the family," he said when Julie brought me to his house one Sunday for dinner. 6 months after meeting at the Stagecoach, I proposed. Julie said yes, and 3 months later, we were married. 8 months after that, I found out I was going to be a father, and 3 months after that, I learned we were having twins. Am I a happy camper? You betcha.